Hi, I'm Juan Geracaris. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I represent the 9th Ward.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to start off with a more personal question.
Sure.
Everyone has special traits and gifts they can use to change the world. Thinking about your skills and strengths, what is your climate superpower?
My climate superpower, let's see. I think I'm a problem solver at heart, and I think I pride myself in tackling hard questions, and I think I have determination to follow through. So just because something's hard doesn't mean you give up. And I think climate action there are a lot of big kind of mountainous problems we have to deal with, and it's pretty easy to get frustrated, but you have to remain steadfast and keep on doing the work.
All right, continuing on, you voted for a resolution declaring a climate emergency and immediate mobilization in April of 2022 when it passed the City Council unanimously. Do you think the Council has lived up to that declaration? What are you proud of, and what do you plan to push for in your next term?
Well, I think it was an important first step. Like I said, it's a huge problem that we have to tackle, and I think stating that this is one of our top priorities is really important, because if we had unlimited funds, it'd be a much easier thing to tackle. But we really have to kind of shift our worldview into considering climate action in every decision we make. And so when we're considering, moving buildings or facilities maintenance, we need to be pushing the envelope, because if we don't do something, it's going to be way more expensive in the future. I think going forward, there's I think two things. It's like the city has to be accountable for all our resources and facilities that have a carbon footprint, and we have to kind of be really transparent around where we're at and where we're going, and having like solid methods of communicating that to the community, because I think there's this narrative that climate action is expensive and like we shouldn't be doing it, right? But even as like a small homeowner, we've made changes that were kind of expensive, but the return on investment happens quicker than you'd imagine, and plus it's the right thing to do. And so kind of building out the overall picture so all our residents know what we're doing and how it's positively impacting things is really important. And then just being strategic. And so as we're making choices, where to have, solar panels on buildings, and just, keep on moving the needle every chance we get. And so that's really important.
I appreciate that. So many of the policies before council are future focused, like Envision Evanston, the HBO, CARP. These policies will have a bigger impact on our lives than anyone else, yet youth voices are often drowned out. How will you elevate youth voices if you are reelected? Well,
I think listening and engaging with younger people, I think, is really important. I'm really proud that we have Olin behind the camera. He's a constituent, and he sits on the climate board, and so I think engaging with young people and listening to their ideas, because frankly, you folks have a bigger stake in this than we do, is really important. I think just having an open dialogue. I think getting people engaged with government, sooner rather than later is important. There's like interesting opportunities with like participatory budgeting, and you have like young people can vote on projects, and I think that was like really impactful, and we're going to continue to do those things in the future. And I think coming to like forums and stuff is really important, and because I know climate action and the climate crisis is a really big concern with young people, and so I think we have to listen. So.
Thank you for that answer. Your website says that your priorities include, quote, investing in solar energy infrastructure for city buildings and utilities, and providing safer streets for pedestrians and cyclists. What have you been able to do so far to pursue these goals? What are your plans for the next 4 years?
So with some of the pedestrian safety stuff, there's like small things we can do. So like there's been like something as simple as like a petition to get a stop sign put in a neighborhood. I think I've been really responsive about that, and there's also speed bumps and different and just a lot of times like listening to constituents and like what they see in their day-to-day life, because what I've found is there's a lot of like micro neighborhoods. So I don't know what's happening 6 blocks away, like at this intersection. But if someone tells me it's problematic or there's something that's dangerous, it's like, we can try to do what we can. One of the things I'd like to do going forward, and I think we have a new mobility and transportation coordinator, and she's really great, Sarah Fiorito, and she's been working on having kind of a master plan, because there's, I think we have to move towards what's, I think it's called Vision Zero. And so, traffic accidents are kind of inevitable, but if you make it so that, people aren't driving as fast, or, sightlines are better, you're less likely to have fatalities. And so, doing things like, raised crosswalks, bump outs, those are all things that in the future, as we're planning major infrastructure projects, we have to keep that in mind. We've been, advocating a lot for the Chicago Avenue protected bike lanes. One thing I found a little bit frustrating is a lot of these big, really super impactful changes take a long time. So even though I think we voted, like when I first started, one of the first things we voted on was to approve the grant process to extend those protected lanes, it still hasn't happened. And so it takes, years for some of the bigger infrastructure things. Some exciting stuff I've been talking with some of the cycling advocates about is like kind of smaller greenway projects. And so there's ways to make, safer bike routes on like some of the side streets that is not that expensive. And those are the things where we have to kind of every year, do 1 or 2, like 1 mile of like, smaller projects to kind of fill out the bike infrastructure that way. So those are kind of goals. I know when I started, it's taken a long time, but eventually we'll have solar panels on Crown. And so that should be coming. That was apparently much more complicated than we originally thought. But we're also like going to advocate for solar panels on the Prieto Center. But that's all part of the kind of forward-looking planning at our like facilities. But, we should be adding that stuff to every place we can. So.
Awesome. To kind of switch gears, so at ETHS we learn the value of teamwork through sports and group projects. From these lessons, it's clear that sometimes the city council isn't the best example of teamwork and collaboration. What can you and your colleagues do better to have a more productive collaboration as a city council?
I think we have to learn how to listen to each other. Most of us, I think we're lucky in that ideologically, I think we all agree in general the direction we want to go, and we sometimes get caught up about the 5% difference about how to get there. And so, I think one of my colleagues says like, how do we get to yes? So I think we sometimes have to compromise and realize that there's sometimes more than one way to make something happen, and I think that's advice we should follow.
How did you get here today?
I unfortunately drove.
It's okay.
So I will share my big exciting Christmas gift from my in-laws is they bought me a e-bike conversion kit.
Ooh.
So I have it sitting in my garage,
and it will happen.
It will happen.
Yes.
So I have a cargo bike that I used to take my kids around on, and now they're too old to be pedaled around on that. So I'm So this summer, I'm hoping to be
That sounds very
council
exciting.
member on the
I'm very happy for
the
you.
e-bike, the cargo e-bike is very exciting.
That's going to be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you mentioned your home improvements personally. What personal changes have you made to your house to be more environmentally friendly?
Yeah, so we, I think we installed solar panels at my house it was, I think 2020. I think it's like January of 2020, right before the pandemic. And that has really like been a great investment. Like it's paid itself off in like 3 years. One thing I learned that we're really lucky to be a member of the Solarize Chicago community solar buy. So that took a lot of the kind of like guesswork out of how to make that happen. Because I think if I wouldn't have been involved in that, it would have been daunting to figure out how to make it happen. One of the cool things that programs that has started up recently is the Green Homes Project, where the city's helping people invest in like modernizing and like doing some energy efficiency work on their homes. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity to kind of build up a playbook so that we could share that with homeowners who may not have qualified for the program, but are interested in doing the work. I think it's daunting because people are like, what do I need to do? And it's like, you have to sometimes upgrade your electrical and, have all these things in preparation to make big changes like putting on solar panels. But I think everything we can do to kind of like facilitate that is important. And then I also use a lot of like native plantings around my home to kind of minimize, the watering. And I also have like a garden and I raise chickens. And so like kind of growing my own food is something I try to do that help the environment. So.
Thank you for answering that. That was a very good answer. We learned a lot about some good ways that other Evanston residents can approach, like making their house more green. But we were wondering, you've talked a lot about climate and how you're going to prioritize that. But what are your other priorities besides climate?
I would say the biggest one is affordable housing and housing stability. One of the things I think that's kind of an exciting opportunity now is Envision Evanston 2045. We really have, it's been long overdue to rewrite our comprehensive plan and our zoning code. And it's a real big opportunity to kind of like set the path for our city. And, you find that there are a lot of opportunities to improve upon what we're doing because the world's, rapidly changing. And we need to lay the groundwork for like a infrastructure that works for everyone. We also want to have on the housing front, things like added density downtown, near transit is really important because we want to try to foster an environment where you don't have to rely on your car all the time. Something as simple as like if you had better bike lanes and bike routes, more people would use their bikes rather than drive someplace. So kind of being forward thinking and facilitating, walkability and livability in neighborhoods. We also, I think need more general density in neighborhoods. There's, certain neighborhoods where people can't afford to live, and maybe if we have 2 or 3 flats, people could afford to live there. And that's something when we get into all the zoning changes, we kind of have to, it's a really big problem, the affordability, and we have to kind of be doing everything we can to kind of foster an environment where we have more housing of all types for, all income levels. And so that's a really big project that we're, going to be soon jumping into. So.